Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the OSA weekly series called Beyond the Production. As always, joining me here today, my magnificent partner in crime is the lovely and talented Francesco Miliotto, OSA's music director. Hi, Francesco.
Hi, Aaron.
How are you today? Good.
How are you?
Excellent. As
I'm doing great.
Thrilled and so excited to add our guests into our live stream today. Here are, yay! Hi, Katie Henly and Jack Swanson. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so thrilled that you could be here with us today. And Katie and Jack, I know you're joining us from your COVID hideaway, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking a little time out of your day for us here at OSA.
Of course. Good. Happy to be here.
So I wanted to start by sharing with our audience here at home in San Antonio, also, of course, for everybody who's watching from across the United States, that I really did debate moving forward with today's interview versus pausing out of respect for the civil rights movement occurring across the country. I believe that art can heal, art can promote, it can change opinions, and it can bring communities together. But art, and as artists, we must also be mindful of the work we do. And so I wanted to start the interview by saying that I commit to sharing stories with our entire community that will uplift and unite. And so I've chosen to proceed with today's Beyond the Production to share insight on our art form, and also to talk about what's happening both here in San Antonio and in the city where our guests are currently residing. Now, on a personal note, Francesco and I stand with those who are fighting for justice and equality. We believe that Black lives matter.
Absolutely.
And to honor the lives that have been lost, like George Floyd, we would like to pause for 46 seconds in remembrance. Thank you for this moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate you giving myself, Francesco, Katie, and Jack the space and the time to help us appreciate what's happening across the US right now. So after that deep breath, hello again, Katie and Jack. How are you guys doing today?
Well, good. It's a beautiful, beautiful day out there. So
excellent. We're also getting a hello in from one of our constant supporters, Alan Savada, and he's saying happy birthday, Katie, and hi, everyone.
Thank you, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Happy birthday.
Yes, Katie's birthday was just yesterday, which I unfortunately
had no idea
while we were prepping.
Okay.
So I always like to start with our guests by talking a little bit about how we met and the sort of 6 degrees of separation. So I think I met Katie first at Glimmerglass Opera. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Katie, that it was on the production of Candide that then ultimately we brought to LA Opera, which is where I then met Jack. And of course, also where Katie then met Jack. Now, in the meantime, Francesco, you and Jack have met each other through Santa Fe Opera. Is that correct?
Santa Fe. Yeah, we weren't working on the same production together, but we were there in the same season. So.
Aha, okay. And so everybody somehow is connected via Santa Fe.
Small world.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. And via Candide. Fabulous. Okay, great. So, Katie and Jack, something that I feel has been of particular interest with this interview series has been a lot of young artists, particularly those that are in the area of San Antonio, talking about the topic of career paths. And the fact that conversation is happening, I think, is in part because there's a misconception sometimes that you have to be at the right school, and only a handful of right schools count as right, and or the right young artist program in order to have a path, especially in classical music and maybe more specifically in opera. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say y'all break those rules. And so I actually want to start just a little bit, which I think is super exciting. I think it's really encouraging to know what everybody's path is, because all four of us actually on this interview today are vastly different with our backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So Katie, I'd love to start with you because I know you have a musical theater and a dance background, right? Which then segued you into opera. So would you mind chatting with us a bit about how you came to be the awesome person you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So ironically enough, opera has always been in my world. My mom is a director. I grew up the daughter of two artists. My dad's a professional trumpet player. And one of my earliest memories is sitting, trying to stay awake to get to Papageno and Papagena in a production of Magic Flute that my mom had directed when I was about 3 or 4. Wow. But I first was a dancer. I came from a very strict ballet background. I danced in New Jersey Ballet. And then I began studying singing because I wanted to be in musicals. And I realized that I could not hold a tune to some of my peers. I begged my mom for voice lessons and dove in. And when I got to college, I pursued a vocal performance degree because I believed that it would give me access to a wide range of vocal styles, which actually I've heard repeated from a lot of my peers. A lot of us come to that degree thinking, vocal performance, I'll perform all types of vocal things. And then you quickly realize that
it's opera.
It's opera.
It's opera.
Then I got bit by the opera bug and followed through with my master's studying with Jennifer Welch Babbage and Daryl Babbage out at Brigham Young University. I went to Ithaca College for my undergraduate and had a great experience, especially at Ithaca, where I also had a dance minor and I had the ability to train within the theater school as well as the music school. So coming from two artist parents who were able to raise me in a lovely suburban neighborhood and give me a great childhood, but they did so by really diversifying. I always watched them. My dad played the Chicago Symphony and then was lead trumpet on Miss Saigon on Broadway. My mom was a dancer and then she was a director producer. And I always thought, the more I can do, the more I can do. And that was my big goal. So by the time I was a young artist with the Glimmerglass Festival for the first time in about 2011, I was coming to the end of my undergraduate and I was looking at grad school, and I remember being very kind of shocked, frankly, for a better word, to discover that to reach the next phase of my career would require me to pay more money. And I love apprentice programs and training programs. I think the best way to learn anything is by doing and by watching it by example. I mean, there's nothing that is its equal. But I, at the time, thought, well, there's that, and then there's this other world that I don't have to pay to audition for, and they'll pay me money to perform. And so a lot of my career choices, imagine that. So I dove in and I kicked my face for many years. And by the time we met, Lauren, in 2015, I had just started around the corner. I'd been out of school for a couple of years, and I'd loved all of the experiences. I danced professionally in New York and around the world. I sang music theater with some of my idols. And I started to have this moment. I'd still been singing classically in concerts and in oratorio, but I realized I have this degree and this love for this art form. And at its best, when opera is at its peak, there is nothing that comes close. Live music, live dance, live acting, and the swell of the depth of the emotion that can be contained in the music is, to me, it's unparalleled. So I turned around And I went back into the opera audition scene and said, "Hey, here I am again." And it's been a really wild ride. I will say on the other side of it, when mentors told me, there's a lot that can be said for specializing, they were not wrong. But I am so grateful to have had the ability to cross between these worlds so often and so thoroughly, and hope to continue to have that ability, because I feel that everything you do informs something else, and every experience you have stretching your creative muscle or finding a new way to tell stories, and with new people and how do they tell stories, only adds. I don't think it detracts. So that's kind of, and now I mainly sing opera. I haven't kicked my face now in about 2 years since I left Candy. But would do so again if I was asked.
Fabulous. We have a word coming in. Are you guys getting feedback?
Yeah.
I don't know why that segment started, but I'll monitor it. Sorry for those who are following along. Andrew Ward, who is another constant watcher of ours, has chimed in, and he's saying, "Hey, everyone. Glad to see Jack again. I haven't seen him since we were at OU together when we were doing Elixir. Also," he says, "amazing voice." So there you go, Jack.
Oh, fun. Wait, you cut out right when you said who is this?
Yeah, OU. OU. His name is Andrew Ward.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
great.
works with us a lot.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so he's been phenomenal. And Andrew, glad to have you here with us again today. So Jack, that's a great segue. Sorry, I'm jumping into Francesco's territory.
No, I mean, just now we'd love to hear the same from Jack if we can. That'd be great.
Mine's a little different. I definitely did not come from the movement, dancing, any of that background. When I was, my parents are musical by nature. Actually, the laptop's currently sitting on my dad's church music right now.
Oh, wow.
They're both have great voices, sang a lot when I was growing up, but I was never really involved in theater until maybe high school, 16, 17 years old, when I started getting into like the high school musicals and everything like that. I was always involved in choir. So singing and like the voice always, I guess, is what got me rolling into opera and theater. I started taking voice lessons when I was 17, but the struggle for me early on was definitely the movement. My mom said I was a big J.C. Penney moves person, which is kind of like every time I said a word, Lauren, you know it well, like an arm just has to come up. So that was something that for me, obviously I still had a lot of voice work to do. When you're 17, there's a lot, but I needed to find a place where I could have opportunity to get on stage. And luckily I ended up at OU, as Andrew said, in Oklahoma. And there was a teacher. I went for a teacher because the teacher I was working with here in Minnesota studied with him and said, I should go along this line. So I went down there to study with him. And luckily, OU was such a small program, but had such a giant budget, really, for their opera and performances. We did 2 full operas a year. And from my freshman year on, I got to do about 5 to 6 roles, some very small, but some were like Don Ottavio, Fenton, and Falstaff, Elixir. What else? I think those were kind of the 3 big ones. But I mean, in my undergrad, to be able to do those and get on stage and try them out was really kind of a game changer for me. During my time there, I went to Siegel Music Colony. And as Katie was saying, this is one of those programs for me that the investment was very worth the cost that I paid. I think it was something like, for really getting the numbers, like $4,000 or $5,000 for the summer. And when you're somebody who can't work for that summer, can't make money, already paying for college, I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but it was a big stepping point for me. The people I met there that summer, I'm still singing with on stage all the time. So, it was a really great program for me, more stage time, connections, all of that. After Siegel Colony, I did a week-long program with Houston Grand Opera. It's called YABA. It's for undergraduates looking to, go prepare for their auditions for master's degrees and kind of see what the Young Artist program's like after that. And that's where I met Stephen King, who's my voice teacher now and is the voice teacher at Rice University. Went to Rice, did 2 years of my master's there, and now I'm singing. So that was kind of very accelerated. But and in between there, I also did Santa Fe Opera apprentice program for 2 summers. So,
but we should something that
all roads lead to Santa Fe and Opera.
Exactly. They all.
We should say one thing that neither of us ever participated in, though, were year-long young artist programs.
Right.
Those apprentice situations, and I do think that's pretty.
Yeah, I mean,
unconventional.
I can dive into that a bit if we have time. Kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
So for me, when I was leaving my master's, I mean, everybody that's in my class and all of my peers and it was just, you need to go to one of these major young artist programs. It is the next step. And I will admit that for a lot of people, it is the next step, and it's a great stepping stone. And I can't even say that if I had ended up doing one, that it wouldn't have been a great stepping stone. So I'm not going to, belittle any of that.
No.
But that spring, I auditioned for 5 of the major young artist programs. I was very, very stressed, and I think that came off in my auditions. I also had, a few vocal things. Like I was just kind of, as a singer, you go through these points in your singing where you're like, where you hear this new thing, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? I need to do that. And one of those vocal kind of challenges or hills for me happened right at the same time as these auditions, as I'm sure that happens for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
But it really got in my head, and I didn't give my best auditions. I didn't end up getting into any of the young artist programs I auditioned for. And that was like a major, just like, what? Like I'm feeling, because I knew these people at these companies, the people that have said, we can't wait to, have you here next year. Like there's these promises, and when it doesn't happen, you're just like, feel so defeated.
Of course.
But I have to say that kind of lit a fire for me, luckily. And I just said, I need to tackle this vocal thing. I studied 2 lessons a week for several months. And by the next November, I had a bunch of auditions, and I had really gone in feeling confident as opposed to questioning everything that I was doing. And that was a complete turnaround for me. So that was kind of the journey there.
See, that just resonates with everybody's path being so unique.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for young artists in particular to hear. But I even love hearing it. It helps me feel comfortable about my background and my path too.
Yeah. And it's important it's something that I felt really embarrassed about for the first year, because it's something that was so expected. And now it's like, and I know part of that's because I'm happy with where my career is and whatever. I can talk about it and go, okay, it's okay now. But it is important to say, that so that others don't feel alone when that's happening. It's a very scary feeling when you're kind of like, I have nothing, and what do I do? And the thing that I can recommend if there are singers watching is just listen to the feedback and talk to your teacher. And there's good feedback and bad feedback, but my rule is kind of like, if you hear it 3 times from people in positions, it's something. So just, you don't need to take their advice on how to fix it if you don't agree with that, but there is something. So try and fix it.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's great, because we've actually been talking a lot about how to weigh criticism or commentary or notes, and how and when and who. And I like your 3-time rule. That resonates quite strongly.
And obviously, if it's somebody that you've trusted for years, that might just be enough. But when you're doing these auditions and you ask, and 3 people you don't really know that well say, I noticed this, it's probably time to address it.
Listen, yeah. So I want to throw in a couple more hellos from some of our constant watchers. So Jim McCutcheon, who's one of our board members, is saying, nice to see you all. Thank you as always, Jim, for joining us. Michael Chioldi, who we had most recently here with us as Scarpia in our Tosca this fall, is saying, hey, Opera San Antonio peeps, and stay strong, which we say thank you, and we reflect back to you and your loved ones as well, Michael. And actually, another board member, Linda Peschke, just wrote and said she met Jack at a national NOA conference in Greensboro, North Carolina, when he was in the competition.
Yep.
And that you shared a cab on the way to the airport, and she also saw you in Santa Fe. So small world, Jack. That's Linda Peschke, who's actually our newest board member here at Opera San Antonio.
Nice.
So I guess it's possible to say that in the best of all possible worlds, Candide is what brings us all together somehow.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It was definitely something that I will forever thank you and Francesca Zambello and Eric Sean Fogel for bringing me on board for. I was a last minute hire. I don't know if you know this, in 2015. I'd done my 2 years at Glimmerglass, and I was very happily, like I said, kicking my face around the New York City music theater scene and singing oratorio work when I was actually out of the country in Cuba, and I got a call. Well, I came back, so I had no phone service, and I came back to like 7 voicemails from Eric Sean Fogel.
Mm-hmm.
The first was said, "Hey, do you think you'd ever want to come back to Glimmerglass?" The second one was, "Hey, we lost a dancer. I'm going to need you to call me back." The third one was, "It starts in 2 weeks. A contract's on the way." And they got progressively, see you there. And so I got back. I had 2 weeks, and I quickly went, should I spend? And that was not even it was a no-brainer. I think the Glimmerglass Festival, from the minute I ever set foot in Cherry Valley and Cooperstown, has been very near and dear to my heart. The way they support artists through the summer season and beyond. I mean, they send tours out, and they're very loyal to their artists and support their growth. So I said, yes, I'll be there.
Yeah, and then, so just to be super clear with everybody who's joining, that production of Candide started at Glimmerglass. We traveled it also to Bordeaux and Toulouse, and ultimately to Los Angeles Opera, which is where we met Jack. And what I think is, it's the perfect piece to have united your diverse backgrounds into one show. And of course, for anybody who doesn't know or hasn't figured it out, because you're sitting in the same space in COVID, you are a couple. And actually, COVID made you move your wedding, which was supposed to be this past weekend, right?
Oh no.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I think this past couple months, but especially past couple weeks, have been very eventful for everyone and for very poignant reasons. But yeah, we were supposed to be married on Saturday, May 30th at a beautiful farm in upstate New York. And instead we cried and raised a glass and said, rain check it till next time. Dance a little bit. Yeah.
Well, if it was the cocktail hour, I would raise a glass to you right now. So I'll do that later today once we've reached at least past 5 o'clock. Katie, you said something yesterday that I'm wondering if actually you and Jack could talk about a little bit. It goes back to some of that training experience. You were mentioning the difference between typically how artists are trained when they're in a theater or a music theater environment, and the sense of community and collaboration in the class structure itself that occurs, versus a lot of times I think what happens with more classic training, which is isolated, which is solo sort of work in a room that's very specifically on your vocal instrument on 2 little flaps of skin. And I think, and you were applying that to also what we're going through in COVID, being alone versus community. Would you both mind expounding on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I definitely, I should also say, I think that thankfully a lot of opera programs around the country and the world do work a lot of theatrical training into their programs and their training systems. And I at Ithaca was very, very proud of how, every classical singer had to take an acting class and was encouraged to take movement class. But I do think it's always really interesting to me, and a very broad paintbrush here, right off the bat, classical opera degrees and singing degrees are focused on, sometimes I used to say it felt like every man was an island, because you would work with your coach, you'd work with your teacher, and you'd see your fellow students in rep class, and you'd work with them in these classes. But primarily, your focus was on getting your voice to be as aligned as it could be. And especially for me, definitely had to climb mountains for every goal that I've had vocally as an opera singer. And it felt like I would spend hours looking at my tongue in the mirror, and we'd all be in the practice rooms, and I'd hear my other friends practicing down the hallway, but we were sort of in these, separate little embankments, versus when I would take my little walk from Wayland down to Dillingham at Ithaca and to the theater school. I mean, day one, you're rolling on top of someone else, and you're doing, Meisner practice, and you're working on listening and repeating, and you're face to face. And it's a very different sort of headset, I think, out of the gate in a very broad stroke. As I said, you sort of have this sense of community, and we're all in this together, and your sweat is on my face and my sweat is on your face, versus this kind of like, come ready to sing, please look like a prepackaged, beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that both have a lot of merit. And I think it's very, very difficult in a 4-year, degree to get both together, no matter how hard you try. I think, the theater school always wishes they had more time to delve into music. The music school always wishes they had more time to delve into the theatrical side of things. But it's been very interesting, as we spoke about yesterday in quarantine, because in the classical world, we show up to our jobs with our music learned. You spend a lot of time practicing on your own. You spend a lot of time, even before you meet with your coach, working through musical details and making sure that you are as ready as possible. And in the music theater land, you show up first day, you're handed your binder, especially if it's a brand new musical, and the music director sits right down, and you all start learning right away, and you make mistakes in front of each other and mess up in front of each other. And it's two things that have been interesting. Our little living room at my wonderful uncle has allowed us to use the house that he's not living in Minneapolis during this time. Thank you, Uncle John. And his living room and couches have seen many performances of late. Full performances of Sweeney Todd, full performances of La Boheme.
Every character
at Sweeney Todd.
Everyone now.
Yeah, but we realized how much, not that we needed to realize it, we already knew it, how much we miss the collaborative effort, especially in classical music. There's only so much. You get to that point, and you're ready for your colleagues. You're ready to have that input that kind of boosts you up, like a boost of adrenaline, to the next level. So it's been really, really fun. It's been like a all swim group sing on Xerxes Ave in Minneapolis, where we'll sing at each other, and even though we try to separate into different rooms to give each other time to practice or space, inevitably there'll be a call from the other room if that sounded really good, or wait, what did you just do? That was good. Do that again.
Tell me.
Yeah. There's a lot of conversation. So
Jack, how did you become so versatile? Because I feel we just met on Candide for the first time, and you are unabashed about throwing yourself into what, by all accounts, is a really physical and collaborative atmosphere. So how did you learn to balance those things?
It's kind of funny because like I said, I was not somebody who was comfortable on stage right away. I was like, my undergrad acting teacher, he was in charge of the whole opera program, was really frustrated in all of those roles I listed, because I was definitely this the whole time, because I actually think it is, and I know a lot of people may disagree, but obviously everybody has their own path. But I think in undergrad, if you are planning to pursue opera, that voice takes precedence. And I only say that because if you really don't have something that you feel really solid about technically, no matter how great an actor you are, it's hard to, your brain does not have the capacity to actually give genuine performance if you're not confident about what's coming out of your throat as an opera singer. And I've seen people that are really good at faking it, but at this point I know when that is, and maybe other people don't, but there's a thing where you can completely stage the perfect aria, but if your mind is running, this note is doing this and this note is doing this, it doesn't come across as completely genuine to me. One thing, Lauren, that you mentioned, the Candide,
you had a great dance partner.
I had a great dance partner.
Would that be Katie?
That's true.
Wow.
But the role is not a difficult thing for me to sing. It's like, there's a lot of nuance in it, but not technically challenging for me. It sits in like a part of my voice where I was like, I could get up and sing this and I can go and it's fine. So it was actually a great opportunity for me to really take advantage of those physical parts of the role, really diving into like the emotional aspects of the words, because let's be honest, sometimes when you're singing Color Tour like crazy on F and G as a tenor, like it's hard to be emotionally connected. And so I'm glad that you met me on something like that where I really could connect as easily as it felt.
Fabulous. Well, so you've talked a little bit about how much use and abuse your couch and living room are getting, and
exactly.
Yeah, and so I think we've got some things we can share with our audience who's watching to that effect.
So we do have some videos here, and I know that you guys have been taking a lot of these challenges. So we've got a little bit of a compilation of the videos, but I think we should probably talk about them a little bit before we show them to the people watching. And I just saw this video before we started, and I have to say it's a pretty amazing compilation. The first one that you did was a koala challenge. Do you mind explaining what that is before we show this video?
Yes, by all means. So I mean, I think for most of the world too, you know, it's been a learning curve, I think, as we've progressed through the past couple months. 2020 has asked a lot of us to learn and unlearn and figure as we go. And as we began the shutdown, we began self-isolating by March 15th. We were both performing out here, Jack and Edward Tulane at Minnesota Opera, and I in La Boheme with Theatre La Tida. And March 13th, we were both officially closed down. And by March 15th, we were looking at the time what we thought might only be 2 weeks or so of isolation. And so everything anybody asked us to do, we said, why not? There's only so much you can watch. So the Koala Challenge is, I believe it begins and originates with people who do like acro yoga and are looking to be able to hold their own body weight on a partner. And, you know, partner technique involves a lot of people think, you have to have a really strong partner to throw you around, but actually you have to be strong yourself to help facilitate and make it efficient. So the Koala Challenge,
you say I'm really strong.
You are very strong. The Koala Challenge involves one partner climbing around the body of another partner with limited assistance. And well, we're proud to say we could do it with one of us, but when we tried to reverse it,
no go.
Challenging.
No go.
So I just want to say before we go through the rest of the compilation, that is in fast forward, you time lapsed it. So no one should be shocked by the vocal qualities we hear from both in that moment.
Oh no, didn't you hear how diverse?
I do say that, but it's not
normal voices. And I also just want to quickly say, Michael Heaston is saying Jack and Katie, two of the nicest and most talented people ever. Model colleagues and humans. So, you know, that's not bad coming from Michael Heaston.
Really nice.
Oh, hi, Michael.
From one of the best model humans I know.
And a very good human. And then another darling human who I haven't seen in far too long, Angela Renee Simpson, has joined us and is saying, hey, E. Lauren Meeker. And Angela, I haven't seen you on a showboat in far too long. And I really hope you and your loved ones are hanging in there and staying strong. Okay, so.
And is
it challenge? And then?
Is it true that you started the La Speranza Challenge?
So
is it true?
This is how this started, and I'll keep it brief. But essentially, Katie was working on Boheme, obviously. Then it was canceled, and but we're still, you know, I'm a huge Boheme fan, definitely a dream role.
Yeah.
And so I was singing it a lot around the house, and it was like we got home.
Just to be clear, when he says a lot around the house,
like a lot.
It was all day, every day, Boheme at our house.
So it was like 11 or like 11:30, and we like just had a little bit to drink, and I just start trying to rip the like high C as many times as possible.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, will you just record this? I'm going to send it to my friend Nick Brownlee, because we just are like, we constantly bounce sound off each other and be like, hey, what does this sound like? So she sends it to him, and he says, dude, you just got to post that, and we'll see how many people can do this. So Nick and I we posted it, just put hashtag La Speranza Challenge, and I go to bed that night, wake up, and have about 400 to 500 videos that I'm tagged in of people of all voice types, non-singers, I mean, people like everybody just going and just trying it out, and it was actually cool. It took a whole day of my life posting those stories, and
it took weeks.
Not my favorite thing in the world.
Because then it spiraled out, and every morning we'd wake up, and he would have to spend honestly about 45 minutes on his phone because Jack is so generous. He'd listen to every single challenge. If you're out there and you did it,
I'm just like
we listened to all of them.
So I just posted what I could in a couple of days, but I mean it was pretty cool that that kind of. Then I saw a lot of people sending me emails from other opera companies saying, "Hey, we need to start challenges like La Speranza challenge." I was like, "Oh, that's cool.
That's amazing."
Nothing else. We're proud.
So that's that.
Good job.
Yeah.
And you also did some dancing in a Donizetti, a little duet.
Oh, right. We sang. Was that my birthday?
Yep.
On my birthday, we just wanted to do a little dance, and we were listening to Pasquale that night. We're like, hey, let's just work on this duet a little bit. So we danced to the Pasquale duet, and then is it COVID video after that?
Yeah, the social distancing.
The social distancing. Actually, I love the song "Go the Distance" from Hercules.
Who doesn't?
I've always wanted to sing it.
Alan Menken, David Zappel, they nailed it.
It's an amazing song. And so my sister actually lent me her little mic. She records a lot of like pop stuff. And
all of the Swansons have amazing voices. You guys, I'm marrying into the most, like the Von Trapps over here.
Wow.
She gives me her mic, and one night I go down and I just record "Go the Distance" with this karaoke track because I was bored, and I play it for Katie. And then we're up there and we're like, wouldn't it be kind of fun to like change this to something about social distance? Literally sit down at the table, write lyrics in about 10 minutes. I go right back down to the basement and just record the social distance one.
Although it should be said, the first discussion we had when he came up was, why did you do it in the Michael Bolton key? Because of course Michael Bolton did a cover of it. It's originally Roger Bart in the Disney Hercules movie. It's a beautiful key. It's a challenging song. It's awesome. But Michael Bolton bumps it up.
Gotta do Michael Bolton. Gotta do Michael Bolton key. And then Katie, I got her this nice camera for Christmas because she's been also getting into making videos and directing. I've directed some short films. I personally love the camera a lot.
It was my Christmas present.
Let's make this the first project on the camera. So we spent a whole Tuesday afternoon and evening just putting it together and then posted that night. And it's just fun. It was fun to make people laugh, and also sing and create. So
of course. And then Katie, you said that your dad is a trumpet player, and the last segment is you playing the trumpet.
Yeah. So thank you everyone in advance for watching our silliness. I'm sorry, it was spread out over social media a long time, so it's a lot to watch it all at once. One of the greatest things that my parents have given me, and that's saying something because they're wonderful. Hi, mom and dad parents who've given me a lot. Is my dad has always introduced me to music and had it around, of course. He'd always practice. He's one of the best practice ethics I know. And I don't know how I learned how to play the trumpet. All I know is that my whole life I've known how to play the trumpet. And he gave me an engraved mouthpiece with a K on it. That's the one mouthpiece I've used my whole life. When I was about 4, I think was when he got it for me, 3 or 4.
Wow.
And when Theater La Città hired me, Peter Rothstein called me a couple months before I was supposed to get here to sing my first Musetta, and I was so excited. I'd coached the whole thing, and I was so ready to go. And they got in touch with me, and they said, "We saw on your resume you also play the trumpet. Would you be willing to play the trumpet in this production?" And I went,
"Wow!"
On top of all of Musetta, and it was pretty cool.
So then I said yes before I listened, and I went back and I listened, and I went, "Oh, Jack, the whole second act starts with a trumpet fanfare, and this is going to be me." And holy smokes! But it's been the greatest gift. I've had the chance to play it in musicals. I've had the chance to play jazz. But I've never played my trumpet in an opera before, and I've never played Puccini on my trumpet before. And so this whole spring, starting in around January, February, I've been getting back into that. So again, when St. Patrick's Day came around, I was still practicing. We were still hopeful that we might be able to open again at some point this spring, and I'm still practicing now with the record show. Hi, Dad. But we had the Bohème Act 2 beginning ready to go, and we thought, well, why not?
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So without further ado, let's show what I'm just going to call your COVID challenge compilation video. Here we go, everyone.
You good? You ready? What's easiest here?
Give me one hand.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta let me come through.
Like this.
You gotta let me come through a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Next one. Get your hand. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
Which leg?
This one.
Okay.
Okay. Happy?
Yes!
Yes!
I will social distance till there's no COVID-19. But to look beyond the quarantines, the hardest part. For a hero's strength is measured by his partners will not to kill him.
Arancicati, caldi maroni, indina di caldi daroni. Prugne di tue.
Good thing you're talented, you two.
Oh my God.
Too much fun.
Outstanding.
Oh gosh.
So I
Amazing.
want to be just aware of where we are on the clock because I know you guys have a busy day today, but I would be remiss, I think, if I didn't say that, and you briefly mentioned this earlier, that you are, of course, quarantining together, and you're also in Minneapolis, which is, of course, become in the last week a focus of a lot of the country's attention due to the death of George Floyd. Now, I think there's some very deep and interesting conversations to be had around that, but I'm certainly interested in your perspective and what your experience is in the city right now.
Yeah, well, I think like you said, there's a lot of discussion that has to be had, that's uncomfortable to be had, that's important, that should be brought up right now. And mainly, though, I think we'd like to say, in general, we hope that the protesters' voices are heard, and they have been. And we continue to hope that no more lives are lost. And another thing I really want to make sure that we say is that we have loved living in Minneapolis this spring. The arts community welcomed us with open arms. And when the pandemic began, I mean, the city, the Mayor Frey and Governor Walz have done their best, I think, to do their best to protect all of us. And we have been very proud to be members of the city, citizens of the city for a while. And we've seen a lot on the news, of course, of the destruction, but something that I think should be mentioned, has to be mentioned, is the hope and the strength of the community that we're actually seeing on the ground out here. Yeah. The protests that we have seen are primarily full of peaceful people, and even more inspiring has been how the community has risen to the cause after the protests. We had the honor of volunteering at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Minneapolis, where they're only one of many pop-up grocery stores because there's a bit of a food desert in downtown Minneapolis because of stores having to be boarded up, and the situation with COVID-19 was already one of high stress and an issue. But so the community has poured out their support and made incredibly generous donations of food, diapers, sanitary products, everything that anybody would need. And there's no limit. People can just show up and take what they need. And so we, as you mentioned, we were supposed to get married last weekend. And so without any pre-planning, we were not actually in Minneapolis during George Floyd's death and the protests. We were glued to our phones to the news. And as soon as we got back, we've just continued to try to find the best way that we can help out and lend a hand. But I would want the world out there to know that this is a challenging time, and this is a time I think that it's important that we all have these discussions and question our long-held beliefs or assumptions. But I think maybe more importantly, but definitely very importantly, equally importantly, is to know that it is the strength of our communities and what brings us together as opposed to what divides us that is really apparent here.
And I would say also to add to that is just, you know, do something, and that doesn't mean, I'm not saying just a Facebook post but do something. And a friend of mine made it clear to me last week that just saying that this is a terrible thing really isn't enough anymore. So that would be my last statement with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it was really inspiring. We're volunteering there and watching everyone. I mean, an incredibly diverse crowd from all walks of life, and pitch in, volunteer, show up. The people who came, their willingness to, just join in the effort was really inspiring. So I think we're also continually inspired by watching our friends who are protesting, watching our friends who are, however you're involved in this, even if you're just having tough discussions. It's really, there's silver linings to be found, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that can help bring us down to the next video, which is one of my favorite hymns, "How Great Thou Art." And I think, Jack, you said that Nick Brownlee was organizing an Easter service online, and that's how this came to be. Can you talk a little bit about that before we play the video?
Yeah. So Nick, I don't know if you guys know Nick, but he's been doing a lot on social media, working for Dallas Auburn, doing a lot of things, and he's taken a lot. He said he's busier than he's ever been during all of this. And he just decided it'd be a good idea because a lot of people, who would attend a Easter service weren't able to. And a lot of people really appreciate the music surrounding Easter services. So he called on a bunch of his friends and just asked them to pick their favorite hymn, pick their favorite song to sing for Easter, and kind of created a compilation. And this is Katie and I.
Great. Well, here both of you are singing "How Great Thou Art."
O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the world thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Really beautiful. So we've had a little bit of fun with your COVID compilation. Linda Pesky just wrote to say, thank you both for your delightful and fun interview and for sharing your sensitive and heartfelt spirits with us. So we've showed something funny, and we've showed you in duet, which I felt was super important. We have a couple others that I may clip to first verse. I hope you both are okay with this. I just wanted to show off your operatic and musical theater chops. So the next video that we have is Jack singing Una Fortiva. Jack, do you want to say anything about where this was recorded?
Yeah, so this was in Oslo, Norway. It was a really, really fun production. It was based in like a high school, and Marino's like the nerdy kid with the glasses, and everybody kind of picks on him. And Una Furtiva actually happened on a basketball court outside the high school, and everybody kind of left. It's a great production. I love the role, and yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, so let's check it out. Oh my goodness, I want to play the whole thing, but I'm going to treat that like a cliffhanger, and I'm going to use it to promote Jack Swanson, to say everybody should go check out Jack Swanson's YouTube channel, and there you can see the whole thing, not just the trailer.
There you go. There you go.
And to shift gears entirely, and Katie, I'll first verse you as well. Francesca, what do we have up next?
No, I mean, is there a better song to have Katie do other than I Could Have Danced All Night? I mean, really, from everything that I've learned about you today, even I know this is the thing that we should hear you do. And I hope there's dancing in the video. I haven't seen it either, but I'm just saying.
So here we go. First verse for you, Katie.
Bed, I couldn't go to bed. My head's too light to try to set it down. Sleep, I couldn't sleep tonight. Not for all the jewels in the crown. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night, and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I'll never know what made it so exciting, why all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me, I could have danced all night.
Oh,
You're going to have to go to Judy's channel and her website to see more.
That's a good.
But you guys are so extremely talented, and it's so amazing to see how your energies impact each other, and I'm sure you learn from each other every day, every moment, and carry each other's spirits with your amazing diversity and background. That's so fantastic.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks.
so great to see you again, Jack.
Yeah, you too. This is fun.
And to meet you, Katie.
I know, finally, someday in person, I hope.
Hopefully in person
Someday soon.
Yeah.
So we're hearing things like Virginia's chiming in to say, so beautiful, and that voice, and wow, I want to hear more. And we're getting lots of applause for all of what we've shown today. And, obviously, Francesco and I adore you. I will promote you to the end of time and say, if you're excited by what you're seeing, everyone, go check them out. They've both got fabulous websites and lots more to share, even than what we just shared today. So a big, big thank you, Katie and Jack, for joining us for Beyond the Production. And I want to wish not only you and also Francesco, but everybody who's watching us a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And to say to everybody, stay strong, and stay healthy and stay safe, and love to everyone. We will see you all next week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.